The red nose felt heavy. The red nose felt heavy, a lead weight on my face. It used to be a beacon of joy, a symbol of laughter. Now it felt like a mark of shame. They called me Chuckles, but there was no chuckling left in me. Just a hollow echo of what used to be. It started with a few bad reviews, a critic here, a disgruntled parent there. Too loud, they said. Too much, they whispered. Then it escalated. Online comments, hateful and venomous, spread like a disease. They dug into my past, twisted my every move, my every smile. My friends, the ones I thought had my back, started to distance themselves. Their pity was a cold, hard slap. The laughter from the crowd, once a warm embrace, turned into a mocking jeer. The city, once my playground, became a labyrinth of stares and whispers. Every corner I turned, I saw judgment. Every smile I offered was met with suspicion. The joy I tried to spread was devoured by their hate. I lost my apartment, my car, my dignity. I was a pariah, a clown without a circus. One night, huddled in a damp alley, the rain washing over my tattered costume, something shifted. The despair, the humiliation, it curdled into something dark, something powerful. They wanted to break me. They wanted to see me fall. They had no idea what they had unleashed. The first act was subtle, a child's lost balloon, reappearing on the doorstep of the critic who'd penned the most scathing review. A single bright red balloon, bobbing in the wind, a silent, unsettling promise. Then, the prank calls. Not for laughs, but for terror. Whispers in the dark, distorted laughter echoing through phone lines, the sound of a squeaky clown shoe tapping just outside their window. The city started to buzz. Not with anticipation for a show, but with fear. They called me the Nightmare Clown. My old routines, twisted and perverted. The juggling act became a shower of broken glass. The balloon animals, inflated with something other than air, deflated with a sickening hiss, leaving behind a trail of something sticky and dark. I watched from the shadows as my victims, the ones who had scorned me, began to unravel. The critic who wrote those words? He started seeing red noses everywhere, in his coffee, in the patterns on his wallpaper, in the eyes of strangers. He barricaded himself in his apartment, terrified of the laughter he swore he could hear. The parents who'd complained about my energy? Their children started having vivid nightmares, dreams of a grinning clown with eyes that held no mirth, just an icy, calculating gleam. They'd wake up screaming, clutching their parents, convinced the clown was real, that he was watching. My old friends, the ones who abandoned me? They received anonymous gifts, a single oversized clown shoe left on their doorstep, a deck of cards, all jokers, slipped under their door, a small music box that played a distorted, unsettling rendition of Send in the Clowns. They started looking over their shoulders, their faces etched with a fear I knew all too well. The police were baffled. They had no leads, no witnesses, just a growing wave of fear and a string of bizarre, unsettling incidents. They increased patrols, but I was a ghost, a phantom in grease paint. I knew the city's underbelly, its forgotten corners, its dark alleys. I was a creature of the night, a product of their cruelty. The city, once so vibrant and alive, became a place of hushed tones and darting eyes. Every shadow seemed to hold a lurking menace. Every distant laugh sent shivers down spines. I was no longer Chuckles, the entertainer. I was the embodiment of their fear, the consequence of their judgment. One night, I stood on the rooftop of the old theater where I'd first performed. The city lights spread out before me like a glittering, mocking audience. The wind whipped my tattered cape around me. The red nose, for the first time in a long time, didn't feel heavy. It felt right. They had taken everything from me, my joy, my livelihood, my sanity. But in doing so, they had given me something else, a purpose, a power born from their own darkness. I was the nightmare they had created, and I would haunt them until the last echo of their laughter faded into the silence. The city belonged to me now, the city of fear. And the clown, once scorned, was finally in charge of the show. The final curtain had fallen on Chuckles, but the Nightmare Clown had just begun his act. The rain had stopped, and a sliver of moon peeked through the clouds, casting an eerie glow on the deserted streets below. I could feel the city holding its breath, waiting for my next move. The fear was palpable, a delicious scent that filled the night air. I descended from the rooftop, not through the stairs, but through a forgotten service tunnel, a secret passage known only to me. The darkness was my cloak, the silence my companion. I moved through the city like a phantom, my squeaky shoes now a harbinger of dread, each step a deliberate, measured beat in the symphony of terror. My targets were no longer random. I focused on those who had been the loudest in their condemnation, the most vocal in their hatred. The social media influencer who had twisted my words into a viral meme of mockery. The club owner who had banned me from his establishment with a sneer. The politician who had used my misfortune as a talking point for his tough-on-crime agenda. For the influencer, I orchestrated a digital haunting. Her perfectly curated online life began to crumble. Her followers were bombarded with unsettling images of me, my painted smile morphing into a grotesque leer. Her live streams were interrupted by distorted, guttural laughter. Her phone would ring incessantly, only to reveal a silent, staring clown face on the screen. She became a prisoner in her own digital fortress, her followers deserting her, convinced she was either possessed or insane. The club owner met a more physical, albeit still unsettling, fate. His prized collection of vintage records was replaced overnight with a single, scratchy vinyl. When played, it emitted a cacophony of distorted circus music, interspersed with my own chilling laughter. The lights in his club began to flicker erratically, always in time with the unsettling melody. He started seeing me in the reflections of his bar mirrors, my face superimposed over his own, my grin wider, more predatory. He eventually fled the city, leaving his business to rot. The politician's downfall was perhaps the most public. During a televised town hall meeting, as he was espousing his policies, the microphone in front of him suddenly crackled to life. It wasn't his voice that emerged, but a slow, deliberate recitation of his most damning hypocrisies, delivered in a high-pitched, childlike voice, laced with a sinister undertone. The audience gasped. His carefully constructed image shattered in an instant. He stammered, but no words came. He was exposed, his deceit laid bare by the ghost of a forgotten clown. The city was in a state of panic. The news channels were filled with speculation, with fear-mongering. They spoke of a serial prankster, a madman. But I knew the truth. I was the embodiment of their collective guilt, the dark reflection of their own cruelty. There were moments in the dead of night when the adrenaline would fade and a flicker of the old chuckles would resurface. A pang of regret for the innocent bystanders, for the fear I was spreading indiscriminately. But then I would remember the taunts, the laughter, the cold indifference of those I had once called friends, and the darkness would consume me again. I began to leave my mark, a calling card of sorts. A single, wilted red rose placed at the scene of each incident, a symbol of the beauty they had destroyed, the joy they had trampled. The police, desperate, started to connect the dots. They reviewed old footage, old reports. They remembered Chuckles, the clown who had vanished from the city's entertainment scene. They started investigating his disappearance, his last known whereabouts. One rainy Tuesday, I found myself back at the boarded-up entrance of my old apartment building. The for rent sign was still there, a cruel reminder of what I had lost. I stood there for a long time, the rain plastering my hair to my face, the grease paint smudged but still visible. A squad car idled at the end of the street, its headlights cutting through the gloom. They were getting closer. I could feel it, but I wasn't afraid. The fear had been drained out of me long ago, replaced by something far more potent. I looked up at the darkened windows, at the empty spaces where my life used to be. I thought of the laughter I had once evoked, and the terror I now commanded. It was a twisted, tragic irony. I turned and walked away, melting back into the shadows. They could search for me, they could try to catch me, but they would never truly understand. I wasn't just a man in a costume. I was a consequence. I was a nightmare. And the city, once my stage, was now my playground of fear. The show, in its darkest, most terrifying form, was far from over. The final act was yet to be written, and I, the nightmare clown, would be the one to pen it. The city would never forget the clown who came back for his revenge.